with 47 startups from 11 countries.
That sounds crazy.
We had some kind of technical challenges, sometimes right in the right in the moment when.
Great team, great conversations, great authenticity and honesty and space to have that. So good stuff. Bryan, great to see you. We're back for episode 2 of the D3 mission log, lessons learned while building the world's largest, best resource climate tech accelerator. What have you got for us? What are the big learnings this week?
Maybe we can get into learnings in a second, but something I'm incredibly proud of is that I just finished pressing the send button on more than $1 million US of wire transfers to go fund the first batch of startups. We'll send much more than that, but this was our first kind of tranche, if you will, of all the startups that got us their information on time. So, as an entrepreneur who spent a lot of time in my life kind of soliciting money from others, it feels really, really good, and especially right during the holiday season.
Lovely. Well done, you. But wait on, let's hold there for a second, because it sounds like there's a lesson. You had some entrepreneurs not get you the details so they could receive their cash before Christmas. I mean, that sounds crazy.
Yeah, and we'll see. There's still some time coming in before the holidays, but definitely, with 47 startups from 11 countries, some of them taking cash directly from us, some of them receiving split investments between us and VC investor partners. It was less of a one size fits all kind of transactions than we might have hoped for. So, if we had our druthers, we'd be able just to kind of rinse, dry, repeat the same way over all of them. But at the end of the day, our mission is to serve these startups. And if there are little tweaks that they need to make their lives better or help them kind of take the funding, we want to do it. That said, I think we've learned a lot kind of process-wise through this process, so that if we were doing it again, a month from now, it'd be much, much smoother.
That's what this is all about, the learning. So let's capture that and maybe bottle it and come back to it in a month. But what other things did you want to share this week?
Yeah, so this week we've been reflecting a lot on our global launch summit, which happened. I can't believe it was only 2 weeks ago. Time seems to be moving so incredibly fast, and just kind of packing so much into it. But this was our first convening of all of our partners, our startups, our investors, our corporate partners, even kind of other kind of more extended members of the ecosystem, kind of getting everyone together in one place and starting the good work of getting down to business. And our mantra is that together and only together can we solve the most pressing issues of climate. And this was our first chance to be together.
Well, it was a great event. So yes.
Yeah, and we had overall kind of really high marks for the event, but we also had some areas of kind of feedback and learning as well. So Danny, if you're game, I'll share out kind of a couple of the highlights and takeaways for me. Good deal. So first, here again, we're dealing with startups from 11 countries. We're dealing with investors across 4 continents. We're dealing with corporates, that are global, with different representatives who are in all kinds of time zones. So one of our early and most obvious challenges was just how do we create an event that kind of serves everyone relatively equitably. Our approach there was to have a multi-day event, and on the first day, we had one time period. It was relatively late in the afternoon and evening by North American standards, but that made it really accessible for a number of our Asian and Australian kind of time zone attendees. And then, no rest for the wicked. We had a really fast turnaround and had a very early morning event the next day, early morning by North American time zones. And that was really convenient for our European and Middle Eastern and African colleagues. So, probably, not 100% of the people were participating live at any one time, but we think everyone was able to participate live at least one time. And so that had some impact, not just on our scheduling, but also on the actual types of content we provided. Yeah. So as opposed to doing just kind of live panels and speeches and events, we also had some pre-recorded content as well, and that was kind of neat because we were able to up the production value a little on the pre-recorded content. Danny, you were a key contributor on one of those. Anyone out there who hasn't seen Danny's acting chops, I promise you they're up to snuff and then some.
We'll put a link in later to this video.
Yeah, we should absolutely be sharing out. So Danny, you and our one of our other board members, John Kreitz from RMI, who kind of came together to bring Third Derivative into life, did a phenomenal origin story of their derivative. It actually didn't just tell the story, but actually reenacted it, which was really cool and very engaging. And then, we also had a number of kind of collaborative events as well, in which we're trying to get people together, build some of that connective tissue. And here again, that was up against the challenge of not everyone being online at the same time. One of our takeaways is that from the feedback that we received from attendees was actually that they could have used more of the collaborative events. We were kind of nervous. We thought, people don't want to get into rooms and be asked questions and have to do kind of hard work, but actually people were in general asking for more of that. So that's a takeaway of ours for the future. And we were using a platform, a relatively new platform called Social 27, that was not without its share of hiccups. We had some kind of technical challenges, sometimes right in the moment when we really needed everything to be working fine. And they're a startup too. I have great empathy for them, and many of my startups, I've been in that position of having a product that we're delivering at a key moment, and the server crashes right as our customer needs it. And so I'm sure they were pretty stressed out as well. But by and large, that kind of stressed us out, but I think we were much more sensitive to it. Most of our attendees didn't even really seem to notice, which was helpful. One of our hypotheses in this event was that by recording everything and making it available for kind of asynchronous consumption, that would help on the time zone, and that has borne out. Yeah. We've been watching the view counts of all of the different recorded events, and they've been continuing to go up since long after we actually ended the event. It also helps us create some kind of brand equity, if you will. Those become reusable and shareable media assets that we'll maybe polish up and then have a chance to share out as well. We're even thinking about, as we onboard new employees at their derivative, having them sit through the kind of the recording of the previous summit, because there's just so much there about who we are and why we are and who everyone else is as part of the ecosystem. For the collaborative sessions, the feedback that we had, at least empirically, was that the kind of facilitated sessions were more effective than kind of ad hoc sessions. We also had some times that were kind of more built around networking and saying, hey, everyone start a little chat group and see what happens. And A, due to some technical challenges, and B, just because I think that's sort of a new model that people aren't
familiar with.
As much success there. So we need to get to how best to do it. Yeah. But, if we're looking at kind of our own metrics, so we sent out a survey afterward and had pretty good participation in the survey. On a scale of 5, overall, people gave the event a 4.7, which is really good. Like, we feel really good about that. Yeah. But we had kind of 3 categories of goals going into the event. We wanted to align, connect, and collaborate. So we wanted to kind of align everyone on the mission, the who, the how, the why. We also wanted to build some of that connective tissue, build relationships, between and among startups, between startups and corporates, between corporates and corporates, startups and investors, et cetera. And then we had I would say our third goal was really to foster collaboration. And so we got really strong marks in alignment. So everyone came out of the event feeling like, yeah, we get it. We're on board. We're inspired, we're excited, motivated. We had lower marks on the connect and on the collaborate. So that gives us kind of some areas to focus on as we kind of innovate the next time around. We also asked people for which events that they thought kind of were most resonated with them and were most helpful and most impactful. And interestingly, a kind of common consensus was that the events where there was the most honesty and maybe the most vulnerability were the ones that seemed to be best received. I gave a small talk about my own entrepreneurial journey, the ups and the downs, to the startup crew, and that seemed to be very well received. But our best kind of most valuable player event was a panel session we had with one startup entrepreneur, one investor, one corporate kind of representative, and me as well. And we just had a knockdown, drag out, no holds barred discussion about the challenges of kind of deals and collaboration between startups and corporates. And they're all over the place. And it was just great. It was such real talk. Nobody was putting a shiny sheen or doing marketing. I mean, we were
performance.
It seemed very, very honest and real. And, we captured all the chat that happened during that as well. And you could just see lots of
that would be a great asset to provide to this audience too, in the future, to show that panel, because it was very powerful, and authenticity speaks volumes.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't know, we may need to be careful. One of the ways that we were able to be so kind of authentic and open there is that we had kind of set the guide rails and saying, hey, this is pretty private, and guys can speak freely. So yeah, we'd have to check on that. But takeaway is we need more of that, and more of the same.
Yeah.
Probably our biggest lesson learned, though, is, and this isn't a lesson learned, but I'd say it's a lesson relearned over and over again, is that it's just so important to have incredible, awesome members of your team. So Elaine Shea, who's our head of corporate partnerships and marketing, not our head of events. We don't have a head of events, but she had an amazing previous career as kind of running the Verge conference at GreenBiz. She just kind of stepped up and took this and ran with it. Very little budget, very little guidance, bunch of stuff changing at the last minute. And she and Madeline Karnemark, who was helping her out on our team, they just really hit it out of the park. And kind of in classic high performer fashion, we finished the event and they're focusing on all the things that didn't quite go as perfectly as they wanted. And then again, all the results came in from the survey, and everyone thought it was really awesome. So it's further reinforcement that team matters so much.
Yes. That's a good one. And a lot there, Bryan. Thank you. For the audience that I imagine in my head right now is, other people building accelerator programs, maybe fully virtual like D3 has been intended to be. And, there's tips and tricks there about technology and time zones. But at the end, it's really about great team, great conversations, great authenticity and honesty and space to have that. So good stuff. What else is on your mind this week as we roll through the journey of D3?
Well, so Danny, I think this is going to be our last recording before the kind of winter holidays here in North America. And so in the spirit of the holidays, I thought I might ask you, and then you can turn around and ask me the same. What's a holiday wish that you have as we head into the holiday season?
Look, the third derivative concept of accelerating the rate of acceleration is sort of mine. And sometimes that's a step back to spring forward sort of mojo, and so taking this break seriously, meaning rejuvenate, recover, get ready for a big 2021. All the tailwinds are behind us. The Chinese government is coming out with the 14th five-year plan next year, which is going to be the biggest, most important climate solution statement in the history of the world. The US government is going to be inaugurated with someone with a brain who actually gets climate and has a whole of administration agenda to address it. The European Green Deal's just been passed. We have the mojo on planet Earth to get this done in the 2020s. I feel like 2021 is going to be a breakout year. So rest well, because we're going to be busy.
Yeah, so maybe that's actually, you and I must be on the same wavelength, because, my own kind of wish for the holiday season is related to that notion of rest. I say we have this incredible team of high performers who are deeply motivated around the mission that we're doing. But as a consequence, they're working themselves to the bone. And, obviously I'm working to build up the team and bring on more staff, and we're trying to pause when we have a moment to catch our breaths and kind of think about how we're working. But my great wish as we step forward would be for our team to find a way to kind of work in greater balance. Because I've seen it in startups before, kind of this notion of burnout. And even if you're incredibly motivated today, Herculean efforts aren't sustainable over the long term. And some people debate whether the climate fight is a sprint or a marathon, and I think it's both. It's like a sprint that's going to last a really long time. So we need people both to be working really hard, really effectively, more importantly, but we also need them to be able to sustain those efforts over time.
Yeah. Marathon of sprints.
Do you have any key pro tips from some of your entrepreneurial past about how to kind of walk that line?
It's in the same vein. It is that you need to rest and recover. And, the performance athletes, whether they're sprinters or marathon runners, do serious recovery. And so do the great entrepreneurs and, those that go from good to great, to use some cliches. You got to sharpen the saw and take that time for yourself and your family and all the other things that sustain you to be in this for the long haul, because it's that kind of work. Even if it's a series of sprints. And I think this is extra complicated in COVID time. I really feel like, not to say Third Derivative has set itself up a bit with the entirely virtual plan, because I think that delivers a whole lot of value, and the global vision of it is real because of the virtual nature of it. But we've all experienced that living on Zoom like we are, and this COVID reality is making life balance blur, life work blur rather than life work balance. So, cut the cord and take the week off, shut down the slacks, and just do the rejuvenation that you require, as would, Michael Jordan or whomever your favorite athlete is. Go get in that ice bath and recover the muscles so that you can do it next time.
So that's a really great suggestion. A long time ago in my life, I had the great privilege to work out with a legendary strength and conditioning coach in the National Football League of in the United States. His job wasn't to help people get a little bit stronger; it was help them to achieve the maximum genetic potential that they could. And he would always harp on the fact that you're on the field or you're in the gym, what have you, that provides the stimulus, but the growth happens during recovery. Like you've got to make time for recovery, and that probably applies here. Great suggestion.
Mm-hmm. Well, last question is, what's the startup of the week? What's our favorite company this week? I mean, not favorite, I gotta not have favorite children amongst our 47 kids here, but who do we love, and who are we going to share some love with?
So you're right. We love them all. We love them in different ways. But so we're recording this today, 3 days before the winter solstice in North America. So the day when we have the least illumination kind of on our part of the world. So sunlight is very top of mind for us. So I'll throw out a shout out today to SunPath, which is a company based in the United States that actually uses fiber optics to take sunlight from outside, and kind of regardless of where the sun is shining on that side of the building or this side of the building, helps that sunlight reach every nook and cranny of the building where the people working inside of it actually need it. So that's important for comfort. It's important for kind of happiness. It's incredibly energy efficient because that sun is shining anyway. It's even more efficient than LEDs, but especially this time of year where a number of people, are dealing with seasonal, mood and disaffective disorder, et cetera. This is, we think their mission is incredibly worthwhile.
Wow, that's a good one. All right, well, thanks so much, Bryan. Really interesting to see it evolve. Mission log episode 2 done. D3, thank you. For those listening and watching and learning, down in the connections here, the links, you can learn more and see the company that we've just featured, SunPath, and we'll be back next week, not next week, but 2 weeks out.
That's right. Happy holidays, everyone. And thanks again for joining us on the journey.
Shine on.